Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Heather Ashley, and welcome to another episode of Women of Her Story, a podcast dedicated to celebrating women who have made or are making their mark on our society. I have with me professional body painter, Trina Merry. Thank you so much for joining us today, Trina.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. The days are starting to blend together a little bit, but but doing well. Trying to keep my mind active.
So let's dive right in. How did you come into body paint? Such a specific thing.
Yeah, it really is, and it's so at least when I got into it, it was very, very unusual. There weren't reality TV shows and that sort of thing to encourage you or educate you about what body paint was. I actually was working in Hollywood, and I got struck by lightning. My car got struck by lightning, and I became super sensitive to electricity. And so I moved to Yosemite and kind of hid out in the woods away from all of the electrical lines to try to heal my body. During that time, the Dresden Dolls were on tour, and they're friends of mine, and I went to go see them. And their opening band, the Red Paintings from Australia, had body paint as a part of their opening act. Mm-hmm. And after a few glasses of absinthe, Amanda Palmer talked me into standing on stage in my underwear naked in front of about 3,000 people. And so I got body painted. I thought the experience was super exhilarating, and I just became very curious about it. So that's how I got started, and how I was introduced to body paint. And then, it's been an adventure and a journey ever since. Needless to say, very unusual experience, life experience.
But a fantastic one nonetheless. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can say that they do what you do and do it well,
Yeah, all those things are true.
Where's your favorite location that you've been able to work?
So I had the privilege of doing an amazing ad campaign that I took the money and immediately made a fine art series with it. I decided to go to the 7 Wonders of the World because why wait till you're retired?
Yeah.
Why wait till I'm too old and can't move and can't go to these amazing places and really enjoy them? So I took a model and I went to the 7 Wonders of the World. And my favorite place that we went to was actually not a 7 Wonder of the World, but it was a part of that trip. We went to Easter Island. That was hands down one of my favorite places that I've ever body painted.
What was it that you loved so much about it?
There's actually more horses on the island than there are people. Nature has just been able to sort of like remain raw and real there. And people respect nature and their ancestors in a way that's super beautiful. And so I was very well supported when working with the Moai, with, their cultural centers. And we formed some really amazing connections. And then on top of that, we had a week of really amazing adventures on the island, cave diving and, 4-wheel driving and visiting, amazing craters. It's so stunningly beautiful there. It's a real place. And you're sitting there and you're looking at where the Moai came from, how they carved them out of the mountain and then pulled them down to wherever their, final resting place is. Yeah. They're basically elaborate headstones for graves. I don't know if you were familiar with that, but they're kind of like in a way that's sort of similar to animism. Their spirituality believes that the spirit of that particular ancestor, oversees everybody as the Moai, and it's incredible. It's a powerful place. Also, the whole above the ozone layer is right there. So you are confronted with the elements immediatally.
Yeah, man.
I think I got second degree sunburn within maybe 20 minutes of first landing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it just was like, wow, hey, nature. All right.
You're like, wow, I see you're mad at us. Yeah.
I miss the skyscrapers.
So what is it about body painting versus painting on a canvas that keeps you excited and inspired?
This is a great question, and one that I'm feeling strongly right now as I'm locked in quarantine, unable to body paint, and instead forced to paint on canvas. I've just been letting like sort of different podcasts and almost like talk radio or late night shows or whatever just sort of play, because I'm so used to a human being to having this energy with another human being while I'm in the creation process. And I think, before I before quarantine, my answer always was like, well, the art piece has a heartbeat.
Yeah.
There's a twinkle in the eye. It has breath. It's alive. That's amazing. Now it's like, I love it because I've become accustomed to that special energy and that special creation process.
Mm-hmm.
I love the amazing burst of energy to create one piece of art in a short amount of time that then is temporary and goes away. This coming back to the same canvas day after day, it's a different sort of mental practice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think my answer is changing for that question as I'm learning and remembering what it's like to work with inanimate objects again. I miss people, and I'm an introvert, but I miss my collaborators.
Mm-hmm. And
Hmm.
contact.
Yeah,
Literal,
touch,
just
touch.
physical contact. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using, instead of using the body as a canvas, I'm using the body as a brush. So I'm making a painting right now that I'm calling 1,000 touches during the time of self-isolation. And because I was sick, who knows if it was for sure COVID-19 or not, because I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
get tested, but probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to deal with a few weeks of self-isolation, and that like intense disconnect from the physicality of the
Mm-hmm.
practice was enormous. And so I'm doing this piece where I'm using my thumb as the brush, and I'm just putting
Oh.
thousands of little markings on the canvas using my body as the brush. So it's interesting. It's like a kind of the flip of what my
Yeah.
practice has normally been. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're still thinking in terms of how can a body be used as a piece of art.
Yeah, because we are culture makers, and we take ourselves outside of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And what's beautiful, I think, about contemporary art, and resulting after sort of a lot of the avant-garde thinkers and performance artists,
Mm-hmm.
um, and is that is including the human back in the process, because technology can do a lot of things for us now, right? So what is it that makes us unique? What's our way of actually leaving an imprint on the world?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can totally paint photorealistically, and I'm gonna love your hyper realistic paintings, but at the end of the day, the camera and the video camera kind of gets the job done. Now your phone
Mm-hmm.
gets the job done.
Yeah.
So how do we rethink about the process of painting in a
Mm.
different way?
Yeah. A lot of your work, or at least what I've seen of your work, is camouflage painting into
Mhm.
both like nature, monuments, also to other pieces of existing art.
Mhm.
Can you explain what that means, how you go about putting a body that obviously is not perfect in linear senses because there's curves on a body always. How do
Mhm.
you adjust for lighting, adjust for those types of curves on something that is linear that you're trying to camouflage into?
I started camouflage body painting in San Francisco, in front of graffiti murals, because I was a graffiti artist at the time, and I wanted to still paint with my friends. And so it was a way for me to kind of still engage in that process, collaboratively. Sorry, it was a way for me to continue to engage collaboratively with some of my friends, and to be making these public works of art on the street. Um, so I started camouflaging people, in San Francisco into places like Clarion Alley or other major, street art pieces. And then when I moved to New York, I got really pumped because I'm like, wow, the best graffiti artists in the world are here. It's going to be awesome. I think Banksy had just been there. I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. And I showed up and I was blown away by the architecture. And I was like, this is so old. Like, coming from the West Coast, this is so old. This is so weird. I need to understand this architecture. And so and simultaneously, it was very lonely moving to New York. And so I felt like I could just sort of disappear in the middle of all of these millions of humans. And so I wanted a way to create true connection and intimacy with other people, while also exploring what it meant to feel like, actually moving to New York. And so I started working with women, because the more I stared at the New York landscape, the more it was obvious that there was this masculine, aggressive influence. All the buildings looked very phallic in nature, and and also there's this aggressive energy on the streets that you don't feel quite the same way on the West Coast. And so there's this very intense, for me, it felt very masculine if I were to gender it. Which I know can be a complicated subject in and of itself, but felt very masculine. And I thought what would bring beautiful balance would be to have very soft, kind of these curves of the female body juxtaposed and contrasted with the energy that we were feeling on the street. And moreover, that we would have these durational performances that were still and peaceful in the middle of all of this anxious chaos, neon tinged,
Yeah.
So yeah, so it felt like the right sort of journey to go from just wanting to hang out with my friends to wanting to make new friends, I guess, to really wanting to understand this displaced feeling that I had moving from the West Coast to the East Coast. And since then, obviously, the series has evolved tremendously. And while I still am, I find that the works now are about gender equality, especially in regards to things like the Top Free Act, and where in New York, women, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but women are allowed to be topless in the same way that men are. So if men are allowed to be topless in that area, so are women. And several states have passed that law, which I think is a good idea. So yeah, it's kind of turned into that. And I of course went around the world, and then I came back and I started doing some more political pieces in the US in front of like national landmarks in Washington, D.C. With multiple females sort of standing up to these places of power, or reclaiming these places of power. Maybe I would venture to change the dialogue in that direction now that we belong there.
Yeah.
And and then I decided, I think it was about a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago, that I would do some works that were reconnecting us with nature, because so much of our lives are spent sort of covering our bodies and trying to ignore nature as much as possible, and in fact abuse nature. And so by becoming one with nature and reminding ourselves that we also live on this earth, and these places are a part of us and necessary to live in balance with our planet. And we have a responsibility there. I started camouflaging people into these beautiful natural environments.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's,
it's been a journey.
yeah, it has been
With
a
that
journey.
series.
That's
Uh-huh.
so, that's, I was not anticipating that answer. And that, no, I was like in a trance that whole time. That was such an interesting perspective and vision, I think, to, huh. I'm like cycling through all the works that I've seen of yours and knowing which ones you're talking about, and I'm now seeing them on a totally different level, where I was like, for a while I was like, wow, these are so awesome and they're such great work and it takes all this time, and now I'm like, oh my God, there's so much being said. Oh, I love that. I
You know
love
what?
that.
I'll even just settle for people thinking they're cool images. I think that I think that at the end of the day, art should stand on its own without understanding the artist's intent. I think, and also the viewer should be able to add their own dialogue on top of the artwork, their own experiences, their own, what they see or get out of it, or what they take away from looking at the artwork, I think is equally valid. But that's where, the process is coming from on my end as the
Hmm.
painter and photographer. Um, which is different from the performer's intent.
Yeah.
Um, so I think all perspectives are valid and subjective.
Yeah. So I've clearly followed your work for a while, and the piece that jumps out in my mind the most is one where you've painted a woman to blend in with an oncoming train on a subway platform
Yeah.
in New York City. How were you able to achieve that timing so well? Like, how
Well,
many
I
times did
actually,
that take?
yeah, no, I love that. And I appreciate that. So all of the pieces in that series take me like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. So they're really fast bursts of energy, like I was talking about. And that piece, I think, probably took an hour and a half. I had just done a piece in Times Square where I was doing a body painting in front of a moving taxi cab. And I thought we achieved something there that was interesting. I walked away like curious
Mhm.
about that experiment and learning some things from that experience. So then I was like, let's do something really crazy, like something that I can fail at, but also something that has a little bit more predictability than like random traffic in the streets of New York City,
Mhm.
which can align or not align when you're in the middle of the crosswalk. But with a train, you know where it's going to stop. You
Mhm.
can predict where it's going to stop. But it moves so quickly that the blur factor for the
Mhm.
image and screwing up the timing and all the people getting on and off the train are real opportunities to mess up the painting, and more importantly the photograph.
Mhm.
And but I wanted the challenge, so I body painted the model, just kind of did some outlines and then took her away, filled in the gaps, and then brought her back and kind of finished up the painting. And I think I photographed 8 different trains going by, and I could only get about 3 images per train. But when I saw that one image, I was like, that's it, that'll work. And so it was just kind of this, photographers talk about it as like the element of chance, being a
Mhm.
part of the process. But I also am very well aware of the 50 or however many people that would move out of our way every time the train. You know how it is in New York. People are not going to get out of the way when the train is coming. They are raring to go because they want to make sure they get a spot on the train at rush hour.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we were able to do that because, 50 people out of 8 trains got out of the way.
Yeah.
400 people helped me make that image. So,
It's so cool. Something that I also really love about that particular image is that there are people like in the background a little bit on the side and stuff, and it feels very, and half of them aren't even like looking at what's going on, which is so New York. They're like, yeah, natural. Somebody's being painted. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
Well, and what's funny is on the back side of them, they're not painted, right? They're just no paint on the back side. And so I think that's what's really funny is that they're like trying not to look at a person that's topless in her underwear, you know, because from the other side, obviously it's very interesting, but from the side of where they're standing, they're just like, oh, whatever. Another pantsless subway ride or whatever.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever doubt yourself in your decision to pursue this unique art form?
Certainly. I come from a very conservative family. But I also come from a very entrepreneurial family. And so, even though they didn't really understand what I was up to, they were going to support me because they thought that life as a professional artist would make me happy. And they were very interested in the fact that I could be my own boss. And so they've been tremendously supportive of my journey. But yeah, I still have doubts. I can't even paint anybody right now. So like, and I feel like I'm not being as productive of a member of society as if I were to go down to a hospital right now and help with intake of patients, or if I were to go to a food bank today and help hand out food. So sometimes, especially in moments of crisis, like what we're going through, it can feel like I'm not being a helpful member of society. But I get wonderful, I got some wonderful messages yesterday that were just like, thank you so much. I really needed to smile today, or thank you so much. This was a beautiful distraction, or I needed to get my mind off of things, and I needed to think about the world differently, because I think we can get tunnel vision during moments like this. And we need to remember our humanity and why, and also I think art is very important because it helps push culture forward. So I think it's more necessary during moments like this than maybe we realize, but without having like an immediate practical,
contribution.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah.
So those create doubts in my mind, because I'm a very practical person, and I like to I do want to be useful. So yeah, in the meantime, I'm going downstairs and I'm breaking out some paints and I'm touching a canvas, it's really weird.
Yeah, I think that's a completely valid, we're all going through a trauma, and I think everybody handles a trauma differently, especially, and everybody from every different field is sitting here like, what? Like, how can I be a real person right now?
Yeah.
Not even just a contributing person, just a person. Like, I put on jeans today, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing where I'm like, okay, all right, that was productive for myself. Sometimes it's okay to be like, I don't know what I can do in a truly practical, sense in terms of helping, but you can do things to help yourself get through things. And I think that's totally valid. That's totally valid.
It is. And in regards to mental health, which is becoming more and more of an issue, especially as people are becoming unemployed and the economy is becoming a big problem, and due to isolation, we need therapy in a way that we haven't needed therapy before as a country. I actually wrote in college my senior dissertation on how will America handle trauma. And I think a couple months after I wrote that paper, 9/11 happened. So I got immediate feedback on that and research.
Yeah.
And I can't help but revisit those conversations and ideas. And I do think that when Lady Gaga puts on a music event that helps us vulnerably show us what artists' homes look like, and it just gives us some music, something to do to break up that evening, and to remind us of what's going on, not just in our own little houses or in our own towns, but around the world. I think it becomes very important to have art be a part of, our healing process as country,
Yeah.
as a world, as as human
Right.
beings.
Right.
So, but I understand. So, like I'm hitting this week, I'm hitting that, like, I just want to kind of snuggle up with tea and watch documentaries all day long, every day. With my puppy and boyfriend until this is all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like, sometimes it's hard to feel like you have purpose.
Yeah.
But we absolutely have purpose. We have created this mythology that our only purpose is economic and revolved around work. And that's simply not true.
Yeah.
And no place, I was talking to some of my body paint models last week, and I was like, in body painting, there is this stillness of mind that occurs during the practice because you are so physically uncomfortable and even mentally uncomfortable, especially if you're in these, human sculptures with multiple bodies around you. Some people become very claustrophobic or whatever, and you have to breathe through it. And it feels like the art is the practice, and body painting is the practice, and now this is the real thing. This is it.
Like, you've been training for this.
Yes, this is what we've been working on for the last 14 years to get to this moment where we understand that everything is temporary, and you have to breathe through it. And it's all about your mental state. It's all about your mental state and staying present, not running away from discomfort, but staying present with reality and how can you function? How can you create something and make the world a little bit more beautiful in your present moment? It sounds very it sounds like philosophy or something, but it's for us, it's a very real physical practice.
Yeah. Do you ever encounter people who scoff at your particular line of work? People who are like, that's not a real job. Like,
Oh, sure. Yeah, I got some comments recently on YouTube that were, the internet.
yeah.
I get, I would say that there are, and that particular person's comment was, some of us are out here like plumbing or something, like some like blue collar, physical job, and I'm like, that doesn't mean that I'm not, haven't done those types of things with my life or with my practice. And we all have different functions in society, like we were just talking about.
Does he want us all to be plumbers? Like, what?
Yeah, I think he would find getting a job to be complicated. So I think he's pretty thrilled to be a plumber right now and still be employed. I would say that I'm jealous of his life, maybe a little bit during this moment. So I think we all that was a comment that was before all of this quarantine sort of happened. I think people have different attitudes now. But to get back to your question and to your point, yeah, I've certainly been misunderstood. I think the biggest misunderstanding is that because my artwork is created on the nude human body, that it is in some way erotic or sexual. And there's like, nobody's having sex in my art pieces, and there's like no use of adult toys, like things that are really specifically pornography or erotic. But I think people, to me, it always comes down to those people need to work through their own issues, or maybe have some more education around what sexuality is and what gender is, and what the human body is, and what art history is, right? Because the nude figure is not new to art history. That has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Some of our most ancient artifacts that we have as proof that humanity existed are naked people, naked
Yeah.
of people, and
Yeah.
naked cave paintings. So um, our own hangups about our body image issues, our gender identification issues, our sexual um, issues are very important to confront. And I think my job as an artist, one of my jobs is to participate in those conversations and be somewhat of an educator, because it with education you reduce things like, I think you have the potential, let me say this, I think you have the potential to reduce aggressive violence and things like rape
Mm-hmm.
um, when people are more educated on issues of things like consent and
Mm-hmm.
transsexuality and what a correct sense of sexuality and gender roles are. So, yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, I really, I think it has the possibility to reduce things like domestic violence when we don't
Mm-hmm.
treat other people as objects and we instead engage in understanding why somebody might be brave enough to
Mm-hmm.
and vulnerable enough to stand on the streets nude and say, this is me standing in my power and I'm absolutely vulnerable and I'm
Mm-hmm.
absolutely intimate and you can't ignore me.
Mm-hmm.
What what, don't you have questions? Like, don't you want to know more instead of like just quickly passing judgment? Like,
Yeah.
that's a human having a process. So I would say that there are definitely some misunderstandings, but I would also say that they are very, very few and far between these days. I more have people that just want the education, want to know more, want to engage with the artwork, or just think it's really fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think do you think that um shows like I think it's called Skin Wars and then like those like some of those makeup shows and stuff like that, do you think those are helping the industry or your specific industry in terms of people understanding that it's not what people probably initially really thought it was?
I think that it just is like people, yeah, in the way that people are like, I didn't know body painting was a thing, and now
Yeah.
I know that it's a thing. So
Yeah.
I think it's helpful just for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, as an artist, fine
Mm-hmm.
artist, as opposed to a makeup artist, I don't know that it helps the understanding of my specific art, my
Sure.
specific practice. But I do think that it is very helpful in people just being like, I didn't know you could sculpt with plaster, or like you
Yeah.
could use this as a medium. Like all of a
Mhm.
sudden they know, like, oh, this is, like when I did see I will say from experience, pre Skin Wars, which I was slated, I was going to be on the show, and then got out of it. My lawyer got me out of it. Um, I so that's a whole other discussion. But I have friends that went on the show, and I can say from personal experience that for somebody who was painting on the street, so you can't get more like real data than
Yeah.
being on the street in New York City. And
Mhm.
people did not know what was going on. And then after Skin Wars like aired season 1, suddenly people would be like, oh, that's body paint. And I was like, oh, now we can have other discussions.
Yeah, and now you
Now
don't
we
have
don't
to
have to
spend.
talk about the
Yeah.
medium. Now we can talk about the ideas. This is
Yeah.
great.
Good.
So
Good.
I'm all for it. Please have more reality TV shows about body paint. I'm happy to contribute as a for documentary purposes or whatever, to just let people know, like, this is a medium. Now let's talk about ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you were initially doing a bunch of stuff, I mean, you literally are painting on the street. So do you showcase in galleries, and are they usually like live artwork with the models there, or is it photos of the work from location?
Yeah, great question. So I do performances at museums. Sometimes I've shown photographs or videos. And then in a gallery setting, I'm usually doing photographic prints that are in a limited edition series, just like most photographic prints.
Right.
Um, and then I do some video art to show the process as a part of the experience. Sometimes I've built installations and then had videos to show like what that performance was in that installation specifically. So the objects have meaning. And then yeah, we definitely on opening and closing nights, and sometimes more than that, have live performance art. So because the artwork is so multimedia, I feel
Mm.
like it's very limiting to just show one or the other.
Right.
um, I think it's really important to show like process and performance. I think it's
Mhm.
important to show what it looks like at the end for people who are just passing through. And I
Mhm.
think it's important to show video of the process, or a specific art video, um,
Right.
just for like another way of like, expressing that story.
Mhm.
So I love the like multimedia approach that we do. But yeah, absolutely showing in galleries and museums.
That's awesome.
In fact, we had a show that was scheduled for this month, but obviously it is on pause.
Just
Like so many
postpone.
artists.
It'll happen again, I'm sure. It'll come around. It'll be time for it. It'll
Yeah,
happen.
and maybe I am supposed to make more object art right now, and that will create something new. Maybe I'm supposed to make, who knows? I'm open, If Newton can discover gravity and Shakespeare can write amazing plays during quarantine, the possibility is there. But I'm
Mhm.
also fine to just sit in my pajamas and eat all the snacks. Like,
Oh.
that's also totally cool.
You know, who
Yeah.
doesn't want to sit and eat snacks all day? I
Yeah.
know I do.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I think we're allowed to. I think we
I
can all
think
talk
so
about it.
too.
I think we can talk about the Netflix and snack scenario that's happening right now.
So, how do you find your models? Are they people you've worked with or?
Yeah, at this point, so every year I do a different audition process. And I think that makes the artwork interesting for that year,
Mhm.
because I set up different rules for myself in my practice. But yeah, when I first started, it was just like friends or friends of friends, and I'd have to be like, hey, do you mind if I paint you naked? It's like hitting on your friends. It's the weirdest feeling. And of course, I mean, I came from San Francisco, so thank God for that, because very, very hippie, open Burning Man culture. So especially with the circus folks, I found like really good community right away. But when I moved to New York, I had the problem all over again. And when I moved to Dallas, I've had the problem all over again. And
Mhm.
so I start with like friends of friends, like other body painters or people that I know are established body paint models. And then I usually hold a really big casting. So like usually my annual casting in New York is over 600 applicants
Mm.
for like 10 to 20 spots. So it's wildly competitive. Now I've been doing this last year, I did a closed audition, which I really enjoyed that process. So it was just people that I painted or like their recommendations.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I have, it's on average, I get 3 to 18 model requests a day. So I've started charging people to get painted by me, especially if they don't want to wait, or if they didn't get cast, or they
Mhm.
want something specific, or they just want to get painted this one time in a really epic way. Because here's the deal: if you're on my team, you might not be painted in an attractive way. We might not even see your head. We might just see your arm or something. It's like a handle of a motorcycle. Like really, it could be, you know.
Mhm.
I make no promises that I'm going to A, release the work, or B, make you attractive. But if you pay me to paint you, I can make both of those things happen for you. So. It allowed more people who wanted creative input or to work through body image issues or whatever to work directly with me.
So speaking of body image issues, do you ever encounter models that apologize for parts of their body for no reason?
All the time. And clients too. Absolutely. It'll be this gorgeous New York runway model that's been in vogue, and they'll have like one little fucked up toe or something. It's just the weirdest thing. People have so many some people, though, I think because are familiar with using their body as a performance art medium, they maybe have come to terms with some of their body image issues, but a lot of them haven't, or they've dealt with things like rape, and I'm the first person that has ever seen them naked, or what, since those encounters or whatever. So it's, huge variety in the experiences of the people that I've painted over the years, because I painted probably tens of thousands of people by now.
Right. So aside from your main showcase work and the like commission kind of stuff like that, you do like private boudoir shoots with clients where you paint on a custom lingerie piece. I can't imagine how empowering that is for the women that you provide that type of service for. Have you witnessed any really emotional moments for many of your clients when they like see themselves in something that they never thought that they could look sexy in lingerie or feel confident in themselves fully?
Absolutely. I get all the feels. Some women bursting into tears and just like going through the healing process that way. Some women are so happy and excited and jumping around and just really feeling sexy and like at one with their body again. It's amazing. And whatever that emotional process looks like, we're there to like hold space for those women and to help them like, get back in touch with their bodies. Yeah, we do like creative sessions as well, and camouflage sessions for people that really love getting out and having adventures. But the boudoir, like, especially the body positive series that I've been doing with clients, it's just really special. I wanted to do something that was that allowed them, that was something that they would be, like, it would be easy for them to understand in a way for them to feel sexy. And then, the process uh, is is what it is, and they come out on the other end with this totally different experience than maybe they were expecting.
You obviously work very closely with bodies of both men and women, and all bodies are different. No one is ever going to have the same body as the person next to them, even twins. Do you have any advice or wisdom to offer anyone who thinks, I would love to be a canvas for body painters, but my body isn't perfect yet?
I mean, I have a couple sets of near identical twins on my team. And so you're absolutely right. Even near identical twins, which are the most rare type of twin in the world, don't even look the same and have different mental issues about their bodies. And it's fascinating to watch that process. So in regards to advice or wisdom, you just, it's so hard. It's so hard to like give somebody body positive advice, because the thing is, it's ongoing. I'm not going to paint you one time and you're magically cured. Just like you're not going to take that one bubble bath and use the body scrub and the coconut oil and boom, you're Lizzo. And Lizzo even posted on social media the other day that she's been having a lot of, challenges during this moment, with body image issues, and it's like she's the one that's inspiring everybody. And so I find that interesting, and I think the biggest advice that I could give somebody is like, you are enough. You are beautiful just the way that you are, and your body is Your body holds the story of your life. If you have stretch marks, it's writing on your body. It's telling a story of your journey. If you are holding on to extra weight, your body was protecting you from something. It was carrying your emotions or your journey or your, it was taking care of you. And it's amazing how our bodies protect us from disease. And we can look at that really closely at a time like this. And so I think the best thing to do is just to start by being grateful for the body that you have and sending more love to those areas of your body that you haven't been loving towards. And really, really sending light and love to those areas of your body. And just saying thank you. Like, thank you, belly, for sticking with me, like, thank you for holding all of my internal organs in and helping me to process my food, helping me to breathe, helping me to sing, helping me to talk. You know what I mean? Just helping to fight diseases and carry my immune system.
Yeah.
It changes your perception of your body, right? When you start to think about it in terms of function as opposed to expectations. And I don't know. And it's an ongoing process. It might be something that you're going to have to do every single day. And in partnership with a therapist. But the single best thing we can do for our bodies is be grateful. Be grateful for our health. Be grateful that we're not attached to a respirator right now, that it's functioning, that it's breathing in and out in a way that's easy when other people don't have that right now. So, lots to be grateful for.
Yeah. So before we get to our last two questions, do you have anything else that you would like to add, say, anything like that?
I guess one more thing about body positivity.
Yeah.
Everybody is unique and different, and that's a good thing. It's something that we forget because we want to homogenize. The reason why we homogenize is so that people in places of political power can control us. And as women, the best thing that we can do right now is to celebrate our uniqueness.
Yeah. And it's bringing it to body painting. It would be boring painting the same body if everybody had the same body. I don't think images would be as impactful. Things, that would just be boring, even just day to day, if everybody's body was exactly the same. It's just,
Even just like I might have to paint only my boyfriend for the next 2 years. I'm already bored with that idea, So
yeah.
And not only body shape and height and flexibility, strength, skin tone, undertones, gesture, all of it is wildly interesting to me and important.
So I ask the same last two questions to everyone who comes through the podcast. Yeah. The first one is, what is your second favorite color?
Oh, my second favorite color.
Your second favorite color.
Turquoise right now.
Turquoise. Why turquoise?
Because I feel like it still has this, like, it has this soothing feminine quality, but it still is coming from a masculine place, right? I see it right there. Right behind you. Red is my favorite color, and turquoise is my second favorite color. And I don't know, I'm vibing turquoise right now.
Yeah.
Light turquoise. Yeah.
It's a good color. And finally, what?
Almost as cool as red.
Almost. Black is my favorite color. Red is my second favorite.
Makes sense.
What, in your opinion, is the best part of being a woman?
We get to create life. Done. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
You know how many men are jealous of that?
That's
true. I haven't even chosen to be a mother, and I'm still pumped about the fact that we get to create life. And creation can come in many forms. For me, it comes in the form of art, and mothering the people, nurturing and helping the people that I paint on or work with. But there's incredible power in the fact that we get to create life.
Well, thank you so much again for joining us today, Trina.
My pleasure.
Of course, you're so vibrant. I've really loved talking to you, and listeners, I hope you've enjoyed listening. Thank you for tuning in, and please don't forget to rate and review the show. It really helps the show grow so that more and more people can be inspired by these incredible women. You can send us an email at womenofherstorypodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Instagram at womenofherstorypodcast. Until next week, be safe, stay healthy, and show the world what you're made of.